Segunda Katikbak. Rizal was 16 years old when one Sunday in 1887 he paid visit to his maternal grandmother in Trozo, Manila, and there met among others Segunda Katikbak, a 2-year younger than him kolehiyala, virginal, attractive, and engaging. These were the 3 words Rizal used to describe the 14-year-old Katikbak in his diary. "She is not the most beautiful woman I had ever seen," writes Rizal somewhat harshly, "but I blush every time she look at me," he concedes. Just like in his correspondence with other women, Rizal used a code name for Katikbak in his diary. He referred to her as K. Despite the many times they met, Rizal and Katikbak never became official. Rizal suspected the latter was already engaged, which was a mistake. He decided to stay away from Katikbak and made excuses from himself. For Rizal, his relationship with Katikbak was only sympathetic understanding, nothing serious. The relationship ended when Katikbak was instructed by her father to return to their family's province in Laguna. The last time they ever met was at a fiesta in Laguna, when Rizal, astride his horse, rode up to Katikbak. She'd expected him to get down, talk, and have a good time. However, Rizal became immobile and speechless. "I said nothing. All I did was take off my hat," he confesses in his diary. "The same thing happens to me at the most trying times of my life. I became too slick, speechless, and overcome with emotions. At crucial moments, I have always acted opposite what my heart wants. Instead, I obey powerful doubts. This is how it ends." Segunda ended up marrying Manuel and they have 12 children, but only 9 survive, while Rizal went to Europe to study.
Leonor Valenzuela. In April 1877, Rizal, who was then nearly 16 years old, matriculated in the University of Santo Tomas, taking philosophy and letters. Consequently, during his first year term in the UST, he studied cosmology, metaphysics, theodicy, and history of philosophy. It was during the following school term that Rizal took up medicine. Notwithstanding his academic studies in the University of Santo Tomas and extracurricular activities in the Ateneo, Rizal had ample time for love. He was a romantic dreamer who liked to sip the nectar of love. His sad experience with his first love had made him wiser in the ways of romance. Several months later, during his sophomore year at the University of Santo Tomas, he boarded in the house of Doña Concha Leiva in Intramuros. The next-door neighbors of Doña Concha were Capitan Juan and Capitana Sanday Valenzuela, parents of a charming girl named Leonor. Rizal, the medical student from Calamba, was a welcomed visitor in the Valenzuela home, where he was the life of the social parties because of his clever sleight-of-hand tricks. He courted Leonor Valenzuela, who was a tall girl, almost as tall as Jose himself, and had a regal bearing. He sent her over love notes written in invisible ink. This ink consisted of common table salt and water. It left no trace of the paper. Rizal, who knew his chemistry, taught Orang the secret of reading any note written in the invisible ink by heating it over a candle or lamp so that the lettering may appear. However, just like what happened to Segunda, he failed to ask her for marriage. Moreover, there were rumors before that, at that time, he is also pursuing Leonor Rivera, which is why they are exchanging love notes through an invisible ink. Many references declare that Orang was Rizal's object of affection, while he was courting the other Leonor, his cousin Leonor Rivera. If this were true, then sending invisible love letters would indeed be the smart thing to do, for other people would find them as mere blank papers.
Leonor Rivera. Jose Rizal was engaged for over 10 years with apparently his distant cousin Leonor Rivera, whom she met when he was 19 years old and the girl was still at the young age of 13. Though it was love during their teenage years, Rivera was deemed to be Rizal's great and true love. Ideally and definitely pretty, Leonor possesses a wavy soft hair, high forehead, wistful almond eyes, small and pensive mouth, and charming dimples. She was intelligent and musically talented as well, being able to play the harp and the piano in addition to her fascinating voice. She attended school at La Salle Concordia, while Rizal was a medical sophomore student at the University of Santo Tomas. However, their relationship was kept a secret, so in the letters that they exchanged, Leonor used pen names such as La Cuestión del Oriente and Tamias Tamis. She was described as a budding flower who's really tender, and she was also really caring. There was a time where Rizal was wounded on the head, bleeding and looking filthy after a street brawl between Indios and Spaniards in Escolta. Leonor went to Rizal's boarding house, and there she nursed him with tender and love and care. However, around 1882, after some incident, Rizal left and went to Spain without leaving any notice to his young lover, which devastated her. Their only communication was through letters, but due to Rizal being a filibustero, because of his published book No Limitang Here, Rivera's mother bribed post office official to give her the letters instead so that it would not reach her daughter. Due to this, Leonor was convinced to marry the Englishman Charles Henry Keeping, which really hurt Rizal and indicated the end of their 11 love affair. A couple of years after the marriage, Leonor died with her daughter during her second childbirth. But she remained immortal because of Maria Clara. She was Rizal's inspiration for the character in his book No Limitang Here and El Filibusterismo.
Consuelo Ortiga. On November 3, 1882, Rizal lived a simple life in Madrid. He knew that he came to Spain to study and prepare himself for the service of his fatherland. He budgets his money and time and never wasted a peseta for gambling, wine, and women. On Saturday evening, he visits the home of Don Pablo Ortiga Wayre, who lived with his son and daughter. Don Pablo has been city mayor of Manila. Rizal went to Madrid to study, and in his journey in a foreign place, by chance he met Consuelo Ortiga Wayre, the daughter of Don Pablo Ortiga Wayre, the Spanish liberal and former mayor of Manila, who became vice president of the Council of the Philippines in the Ministry of Colonies. He grew admiring her, despite the fact that he has a fiancée left in the Philippines, and that is Leonor Rivera. Rizal, being a lonely man in a foreign country, was attracted by Consuelo's beauty and vivacity. He even composed a lonely poem on August 22, 1883, dedicated to her. In this poem, titled A la Señorita COYP, he expressed his admiration for her. He found solace and joy in her company. However, before his romance with Consuelo could bloom into a serious affair, he suddenly backed out for two reasons. He did not continue courting Consuelo because he wanted to remain loyal to Leonor Rivera, and he did not want to destroy his friendship with Eduardo de Lete, who was madly in love with Consuelo.
Seiko Usui. It was the last day of February in 1888. Rizal set his foot at the land of the rising sun, Japan. He was offered to stay in the Spanish legation after being personally invited by its secretary, Don Juan Perez Caballero. It was believed that the invitation was given so the Spanish could keep an eye on Rizal, but Rizal was confident that he had nothing to hide and staying in the legation for free could lessen his expenses. As Rizal could not speak in Japanese, he struggled in communicating with other people. This made him immerse in the culture even more, studying the language, appreciating Japanese forms of art, and visiting the country's beautiful landmarks. It was the afternoon of the Spanish legation. Rizal saw this Japanese woman. She was as beautiful as the flowers in that time of spring. Rizal wanted to know who this pretty flower was, so he inquired the gardener, and the gardener replied, Seiko Usui. According to the gardener, Usui can be seen walking every afternoon near the legation. So the following afternoon, Rizal waited at the gate to see Usui, and they did meet. The gardener helped Rizal by introducing him to Usui, a samurai's daughter, as a physician from Manila, the legation's guest. Usui was interested by Rizal's manner as a gentleman, so they conversed. Usui actually knew how to speak English and French. The language barrier was gone. Rizal and Usui grew fond of each other, leading to Rizal giving Usui the nickname Osei-san. Osei-san, 23 at that time, became the guide, interpreter, and tutor regarding Japan of the 27-year-old doctor. Rizal admired every aspect of Usui and it was reciprocated. Rizal would have married Usui only if he wasn't on a mission for his country. Rizal claimed that his short stay in Japan was a quote, happy golden month. Rizal compared Usui to the flower of choji that fell whole from its stem, its purity and innocence still untainted, and to the flower of camellia, exuding freshness and elegance. Rizal wrote about how he will reminisce the memories they have bonded through, like cheering that divine afternoon in the temple of Meguro.
Gertrude Beckett. Rizal was only 26 when he arrived in London in 1888. In the entirety of his stay in the capital of the United Kingdom of the Great Britain, Rizal published articles, read, copied, researched, and annotated an important work on Philippine history. He met Gertrude Beckett, the daughter of his landlord Charles Beckett and the eldest of the Beckett sisters. Among the girls who became a part of Jose Rizal's life, she is considered as one of the most beautiful with her cheerful blue eyes, brown hair, rosy cheeks, and thin lips. Beckett was a lady who had an eye for art. She helped Jose Rizal mix his colors for painting and prepared the clay for his sculpturing, hoping that a colorful and romantic relationship would be formed between them. She showered him with all her attention and assisted him in his painting and sculpting. She fell in love with him and became his helping hand to finish his artworks such as Prometheus Bound, The Triumph of Death Over Life, and The Triumph of Science Over Death. Rizal called her by her nickname Getty, and she affectionately called him Petty. It was said that their friendship glided towards romance, but Rizal, for some reason, was alleged to have ultimately backed out. As what his compatriots have said, he left because he was running away from a girl. But before leaving, Rizal, as a remembrance, finished up his composite carving of the heads of the Beckett sisters. Suzanne Jacobi. On January 28, 1890, Rizal left Paris for Brussels, the capital of Belgium. Two reasons impelled is the cost of living in Paris was very high because of the Universal Exposition, and second, the gay social life of the city hampered his literary works, especially the writing of his second novel, El Filibusterismo. Rizal was accompanied by Jose Albert when he moved to Brussels. They live in a modest boarding house on 38th Rue, Philippe Champagne, which was run by the two Jacobi sisters. Later, Albert left the city and was replaced by Jose Alejandro, an engineering student. During his stay, Rizal advocated the Filipinization of its orthography sobre la nueva ortografía de la lengua Tagala, or the new orthography of the Tagalog language, being the first to do so, and it was published in La Solidaridad on April 15, 1890. Dr. Jose Rizal was 29 years old when he met Suzanne Jacobi. The lady is the niece of his new landladies. During his 6-month stay in Brussels, he and Suzanne had a great time together. They even attended Belgium's Summertime Festival of 1890 with its multicolored costumes, animated floats, and lively crowds. In August 1890, he left Belgium and gave the young Suzanne a box of chocolates. And in her letter she sent him after 2 months, she stated there that the box of chocolates was left untouched. However, just like his relationship with Beckett, she was just a fling and it was one-sided. This is sadly evident to her letter sent to him. A paragraph read, "Where are you now? Do you think of me once in a while? I am reminded of our tender conversations, reading your letter, although it is cold and indifferent. Here in your letter I have something which makes up for your absence. How pleased I would be to follow you, to travel with you, who are always in my thoughts. You wish me all kinds of luck, but forget that in the absence of a beloved one, a tender heart cannot feel happy.
Nelly Bosted. In Paris, Rizal fell in love with 19-year-old Nelly Bosted, a Filipino of mixed blood whose father, Edward Bosted, owned a villa in Biarritz. By this time, Rizal was ready to love again because he received news that Leonor Rivera, his arranged fiancé, had married Charles Keeping, a British engineer working on the Dagupan Railway. Rizal, now free from a romantic engagement, did propose marriage to Nelly. He was anxious to start his own family at age 30. Nelly was a good candidate. Her mother was from the Hinato family in Manila. She was well educated, well bred, very intelligent, and good looking. Many think that Nelly Bosed was that Rizal's greatest romance, because from the very start, the courtship encountered many complications. First, Antonio Luna thought Nelly was favoring him. Luna and Rizal almost came to a sword duel, but Luna withdrew and gave up the suit. In the end, Nelly, who was a Protestant, gave some marriage condition that Rizal could not accept: to renounce his Catholic faith and become a Protestant. The breakup between the very civil and educated couple was far from bitter, as the two parted as friends. When Rizal was about to leave in Europe in April 1891, Nelly sent him a goodbye letter, saying, "Now that you are leaving, I wish you a happy trip, and may you triumph in your undertakings. And above all, may the Lord look down on you with favor, and guide your way, giving you much blessings, and may you learn to enjoy. My remembrance will accompany you, as also my prayers."
Josephine Leopoldine Bracken.
There was a lady named Josephine Leopoldine Bracken who was born on October 3, 1876 in Hong Kong. She was the daughter of a British infantry corporal, while her mother died shortly after her birth. She was then put for adoption and was given to her godparent, George Stauffer, an American engineer. As the years went by and the age came true, Taffer's eyesight became worse. Still in Hong Kong, they had him checked up by the Filipino ophthalmologist Rizal. That was Bracken and Rizal's first encounter. In 1895, Bracken and his father sailed to the Philippines to seek treatment for the father's cataract. During this time, Rizal was politically exiled to the Pitan for 3 years now. When Rizal saw Bracken, he was attracted and he courted her. She was not a woman of remarkable beauty, but her childlike charm nevertheless captivated him. She also fell for him. This was the Dapitan romance between Rizal, who was 34, and Josephine, who was just on her first year of legally 18. In the Pitan city of Talisay, Rizal and Bracken's love had grown so much as they went by they decided to cement their relationship in ecclesiastical marriage. But being excommunicated Catholic, Rizal was advised by Father Abac, the would-be officinating priest, he should first get the approval of Bishop of Cebu. However, there was no positive reply to his request from the bishop. Nevertheless, Rizal and Josephine continued to live as husband and wife. The octagonal bamboo and nipa house that they occupied was a love nest, and in time she became pregnant. While he played prank with her, she got startled and she fell to an iron stand. The accident resulted to the premature birth of their firstborn son. He named the stillborn child Francisco in honor of his father and before having the child buried. Fast forward to the day before his execution. Rizal gave a stove to his sister Trinidad and whispered to her that there was something in it. He also summoned Josephine, and the two had their last time together. The cooking stove given by Rizal to Trinidad was later found out to contain a piece of paper with a poem entitled Mi Ultimo Adios, or My Last Farewell. On the last line of the poem were the words "Adios mi dulce extranjera, mi amiga, mi alegría," or "Farewell my sweet stranger, my darling, my delight." That line is believed to be dedicated to Josephine Bracken. Rizal had an impact on Bracken's life. This was evident as after the death of Rizal, Josephine joined the revolutionaries.